Thanks for joining me. I'm Derek Helling. For those of you unfamiliar with me, I live in Kansas City, Missouri, and I cover sports business and law issues. You can find me on Twitter at @DHellingSports and on Facebook at facebook.com/DerekHellingSports. Now that I've got that shameless self-plug out of the way, today I'm going to break down what's going on in college basketball in terms of the ongoing FBI investigation. For those of you who are familiar with this situation, and for those of you who may not yet be, the FBI is investigating alleged payments made to college basketball players and their families while those players were being recruited to play for the various schools that they have played college basketball for. The first thing that fans really need to understand the situation correctly is that the NCAA is not the FBI and the FBI is not the NCAA. The FBI is not investigating whether or not athletes or coaches violated NCAA bylaws. The FBI is investigating whether or not assistant coaches, athletes, their family members or friends, investment advisors, agents, and athletic apparel company employees have broken the law. NCAA bylaws are not the law in the United States of America. With that being said, the NCAA has not begun its own investigation into any of these allegations at this point. It is completely possible, however maybe unlikely, but it's possible that coaches or other individuals might not have criminal charges brought against them by the FBI or the Justice Department, but they may still face sanctions from their schools or the NCAA at some point for activity that this investigation uncovers. It's also theoretically possible, although probably even less likely, for a coach to possibly not face discipline from his school or the NCAA, but still have criminal charges brought against him by the Justice Department. So the main question that arises from that point with that understanding is what exactly is illegal, and did these individuals perpetrate those acts? Because that's all that matters to the FBI. Let's first identify what isn't illegal in this situation, even though it may violate NCAA bylaws. There is absolutely nothing illegal about a shoe company paying an 18-year-old man or a member of his family any sum of money that the two parties agree to. There is absolutely nothing illegal about the kid or somebody else taking that money from the shoe company. Those are simply NCAA bylaw violations while the kid's enrolled at a school or prior to during his recruitment. No one is going to go to prison for simply paying or taking money in a transaction that both parties were more than willing to participate in. However, what is very illegal is funneling money through bribes to create a conspiracy designed to influence top-level recruits to commit to playing basketball at certain schools and eventually hire certain agents and financial advisors if those kids are able to turn their college basketball time into professional careers in the NBA. That is extortion, and as I said, very illegal. So that's the burden of proof that's placed upon FBI agents and eventually the Justice Department if they decide to prosecute any individuals. We can see this process at work currently with Arizona men's basketball coach Sean Miller. So in the last week, it's been reported, and then that report has been refuted, that Miller was involved in arranging payments to DeAndre Ayton as part of his recruitment via a wiretap that the FBI allegedly has a recording from. Miller has denied the allegations, and so far Arizona is standing behind him. Ultimately, whether criminal charges are brought against Miller will depend on the same legal standard that any other criminal investigation depends upon. Does the Justice Department, this is ultimately the question, does the Justice Department have sufficient evidence to warrant an arrest for Miller or anybody else involved in these allegations for extortion, as arrests are only as good as the ability to actually prosecute them? The same standard of proof will be applied to every other person of interest in this investigation. So there are some challenges to prosecuting these crimes that the Justice Department is going to face. One of the biggest challenges in prosecuting these individuals, especially the athletes or their families who may have received the money, is that the Justice Department will be in really uncharted waters here. There is simply no legal precedent from which to argue that these under-the-table payments to recruits or their families from these third parties are actual crimes. These have never been prosecuted as such before. So on that note of athletes and their families are friends, by the letter of the law, they are just as vulnerable for prosecution for their roles in this situation as anyone else. However, it's very, very likely that prosecutors will grant them immunity to some degree, if not complete, in exchange for their testimonies against other individuals. By all indicators, the FBI is going after the big fish in this scheme, not the guppies. So time will tell how many individuals, if any, will actually be indicted by the Justice Department as a result of the FBI investigation. It's likely that the NCAA is going to allow the criminal process to run its course before it takes up any investigation on its own for violations of its own bylaws. When all the criminal proceedings have run their course, that doesn't necessarily mean that this whole mess is going to be done in courtrooms of the United States of America and various states, though. Far from over. There are several potential civil actions which could be taken as a result of all this drama as well. It's important to remember that criminal and civil courts are completely separate. Coaches like Miller who have been implicated by reports could sue those publications like ESPN who broke the report about his wiretap for defamation of character. Additionally, athletes who are implicated could sue Adidas or their schools for damages in loss of economic value that may have resulted from their reputations being harmed. There's one thing I can tell you we're absolutely sure at this point. There will be lawyers, and there will be lots of them. This drama has the potential to extend for many years through the civil courts and dramatically redefine the landscape of college basketball in criminal courts. It all could have been avoided, and that's probably the saddest thing about this. Had the NCAA years ago, they should have done this, did the right thing, the smart thing, in response to the commercialization of men's college basketball and football and trashed amateurism completely, and allowed the upper echelon of athletes and recruits to market themselves like any other legal adult in the United States and profit off of their own name, image, likeness, and their labor, there would be absolutely no criminal activity for the FBI to investigate right now. There would have been no reason for these payments to have been made under the table. The reality is that the vast majority of NCAA football and men's basketball players will never be in a position to make such an endorsement deal with a shoe company or any other apparel company or any other company at all, because they simply lack the talent and the brand potential to make it worth the investment for the companies who might seek to make such a deal. We're only talking the top 1% or even fewer of men's college basketball players and football players. Most NCAA athletes would be completely unaffected by such a change. In addition, schools would not have to worry about Title IX violations because the funds would be coming from a third party and not the schools themselves. The best thing the NCAA can do right now is remove these ridiculous bylaws that keep this worst-kept secret in men's college basketball and football in the shadows by allowing athletes to hire their own legal counsel, to hire their own agents. They would completely remove the need for all this to take place in the shadows. That is what needs to be done. and it needed to be done about 20 years ago before we saw the explosion in commercial value that college sports has become. And this is a result of that situation, an unintended consequence, if you want to call it that. So now we just pretty much wait for the investigations to run their course, find out if anybody is going to be indicted. The criminal proceedings will then take place, and then probably once everybody has had their day in court and juries have made their decisions and sentencings have taken place, if any, then the civil court process will probably begin, and the NCAA will begin its own investigation, and we'll have fallout from all of that as well. So this is going to be a long time before we know all the possible ramifications from this situation. So that's all I have to share on the issue right now, but as the situation continues to unfold, I'll be here to break it all down for you. I'm also going to be breaking down other business and legal issues in sports as they come up, so look for content regularly. Thank you again for watching. Have a great day.